Hey everybody, Dave Limburg in Hong Kong with another episode of THD Podcast. Thanks for checking this out. Today we have Daniel Knighten joining us from Audio Precision to talk about their new audio analyzer. So we're looking forward to digging in on that. But without delay, let's give thanks to the Alti Association, a great networking for audio manufacturers, audio brands, and technologies there within. So we encourage people to check out their website and get involved with Alti. And this episode is also sponsored by Audio Express. So thanks to Joa and the team at Audio Express for arranging this interview for us. So we encourage everybody to get on their digital or print subscriptions to Audio Express and learn everything every week about what's going on in audio technologies. So without delay, let's get into this. Simon Weston in Japan. Good morning, Simon.
Morning, Dave. Labor Thanksgiving Day in Japan today.
Oh, a little echo of what Daniel's getting ready for in America. So here we have Daniel Knighten from Audio Precision joining us. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
Thanks for having me. Simon, I've got to ask, do you have your order in with KFC for your Thanksgiving meal?
I don't know what AFC is, and I don't have
KFC.
Thanksgiving here anyway.
In KFC is Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, you've
They
got
have
it right. Yeah, actually, I think that might be Christmas time. I'm not sure anybody is paying
okay.
attention to Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
All right.
that is true that KFC in Japan at Christmas is a big thing. But let's talk about audio analyzers.
Yeah.
So Daniel, yeah, thanks for joining us. And you guys have launched a new product. So why don't we get into introducing that product for you?
I would love that. So, yeah, for everyone's time, I'd like to talk a little bit about this new analyzer we've just introduced, the APx516B to be precise. It's the latest in, frankly, now a long line of APX analyzers. Having joined Audio Precision in 2000, I still think of the APX as the new analyzer from us, but I now realize that many of our customers today have never known anything else. And one of the things that's kind of interesting for us is we've really gotten to the point where this is one of the oldest continuously supported products, maybe in the field of test and measurement, definitely in the field of audio test and measurement. And just to talk a little bit about what's going on here, this is our new, I guess I'll say, value-oriented offering. This is going to be the lowest cost hardware-based audio analyzer available from us. And one of its key points is this may seem a little bit silly to state the obvious, but our previous analyzer in this field, for practical purposes, is thought of as kind of an analog-only product, because while it does have a digital audio interface, and I'm referring to the APx515, it was a fixed SpeedIF, Toslink, and AES EBU interface, if you're familiar with those old standbys. And of course, today, digital audio has dominated is maybe the wrong word, because what's become the case is not that analog audio has gone away, but we see very few devices where it's an analog input and an analog output. Almost everything these days is some kind of a digital input and then an analog output, or an analog input and then some kind of digital output. And in our frankly, larger products, physically larger products, in the modular frame products we sell, we have a large variety of digital audio interfaces available for them, but they're in a decent price point, and frankly inaccessible to a lot of our customers. So the goal with the APx516 was to bring accessibility to all the different kinds of digital audio that people are working with, down to a price point that would, we hope, put it in the hands of every engineer who needs this kind of tool. So the APx516 is pretty straightforward. It's 2 analog signal generator channels, 2 analog signal analyzer channels. But really the key point is it has a module bay, and that module bay will accept any existing or future digital audio interface from Audio Precision. So that means Bluetooth, HDMI, digital serial audio data, PDM, and of course, actually, we do have a module for SpeedIF and Toslink and AES3. And this is, really useful because exactly almost everything these days is some kind of digital on one side and analog on the other.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I definitely, oh, sorry.
Just curious, yeah, Bluetooth, and then some people might would Wi-Fi be something else, like for the people building Wi-Fi speakers? Would that be something that you would do, or?
Boy, I could go off on an entire tangent on Wi-Fi. I'm going to make the following statement. There is no such thing as Wi-Fi audio.
Okay.
And maybe we can have a different discussion about that. But I will assert the following. Wi-Fi is a data transport. It happens to be the case that data that it can transport, one of the types of data it can transport is audio data. But it sits on the other side of a very large and complex stack, software stack.
Right.
And the fact that it's audio is again, this is going to be a controversial statement, but it's negligibly important. Our solution for Wi-Fi tests, for testing devices that transport audio over Wi-Fi, is it's not pictured here, but on the other side of all of our analyzers is a host computer running the APx500 software. And that software sitting on a PC has access to everything a PC has access to. Audio either sourcing or syncing it on a PC is pretty straightforward. For example, if it's 802.11 AVB, there are device drivers for PCs so they can participate in those networks. And that's AP's stock answer is a module, so to speak, on the front panel of the audio analyzer with, say, either an Ethernet jack or a Wi-Fi antenna. We don't think that that's particularly relevant or even necessarily useful, because it's not the physical layer there that's complicated or difficult to test. It's the software stack that you need to get into that.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, that's a a good question and interesting discussion. I'd be happy to go into that separately. But I guess what I'll cap it off by saying we don't have any plans to make a hardware module that deals with Wi-Fi. Our answer is to bridge to Wi-Fi using the host PC and whatever the appropriate software stack running on the host PC is.
Okay.
So then, as far as the 516 goes, one thing that is pretty important for us to emphasize is, as I'm sure you've heard in previous discussions about, hey, what's the difference between an audio analyzer and a sound card? There are a bunch of differences, and if I was going to wrap them all up in one word, it would be robustness. Audio analyzers, audio precision audio analyzers are exceptionally robust machines. They can be exposed to very high voltages without any difficulty. They come with a exceptionally long warranty. And definitely compared to sound cards, but actually somewhat shockingly compared to all our competitors in this space, our instruments are measurement instruments, and that means that they come out of the factory with an accredited certificate of calibration. And as I was alluding to earlier, one of the things that I think is worth remarking upon, next year will be Audio Precision's 40th birthday. This is 18 years since we introduced the APx line of audio analyzers. So one of the things that our customers are really buying into is this long track record of continuous support. We really do have customers who bought an APx analyzer in 2006, are actively using that product today, and that product can still be returned to the factory and repaired and calibrated. And I think that that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And Audio Precision is part of Axiometric Solutions, so we now have a parent organization. And one of the things that's come out of that is we now have real human support in the US, in the UK, in Germany, and in China. And those are factory, those are first-party factory support centers. And then, of course, we have a distribution network, which means that the sun never sets on Axiometric Solutions. And again, like exactly, you're in Hong Kong, but we have an office in Hong Kong and Shenzhen and Guangzhou, and Suzhou and Beijing and Shanghai. And so that means that, for example, somebody who has one of our analyzers in China, they can get an actual human being will show up and help them. If it's a repair situation, if it's a technical support situation, if it's application engineering, all of that is available from a first party in the geography. So that's another, I would say, remarkable thing about our offering.
Mm-hmm. And where's Axiometrics? Where are they headquartered?
So we are headquartered actually in the U.S. in beautiful Beaverton, Oregon.
Okay.
That's the nexus. Having said that, we are a pretty worldwide organization now. We have a pretty large office in Michigan, and we have pretty significant operations in Copenhagen, Denmark, and Frankfurt and Berlin, Germany. And those would be actual, I'll say, full service, so factory, sales, service, marketing, all of those functions. And then we have sales and service offices in a bunch more places. So that is, another side of this is, if you probably know this, but until AP became part of Axiometric Solutions, us and all our competitors tended to be these one location. You have a factory wherever it is, and service and support in the rest of the world is through third parties. So we've kind of broken out of that and gone to another level.
Okay. Yeah, so we can get test equipment and sneakers out of Beaverton.
Absolutely. Well, and don't forget, we have of course Nike worldwide headquarters, but we also have Adidas here as well.
Yes. I love how they set that up to poach each other's staff.
Well, and you often see that kind of thing, right? And you don't know, but I won't belabor this slide. This is just re-emphasizing all of those points, pretty much. I mean, from a value standpoint, for the engineers who are looking at an audio analyzer, it's everything you love about an AP at a really aggressive price point. and you can add a digital audio interface to it of your choice.
Okay.
This is just going over some of the key specs and give you a nice little picture of a 516 with all the different possible module configurations. One of the things I like to say about the analog performance of our instruments, and I mean, that's definitely Audio Precision's sort of strong suit. This is our lowest cost analyzer now. This is the entry point. The analog performance of our lowest cost analyzer is higher than the analog performance of our competitors' best. That has carried Audio Precision for nearly 40 years. That's what we hang our hat on. And some of the key characteristics here that come up is you can put 125 volts peak into the input of this box. Not in the China, but in the US, you could measure the wall with this instrument. I mean, that's part of the robustness of this device. A couple interesting things that some of our listeners might be interested in, not widely known, and it may sound silly, but all our hardware is DC coupled, both on the inputs and the outputs. We can generate DC to 80 kilohertz, and we can measure DC to 90 kilohertz. And I know that particularly on production lines, there are lots of applications where sometimes you need to generate or measure a DC voltage. And that does mean you can do it directly out of this instrument rather than having, for example, an extra multimeter around.
Okay.
Does a customer buy, they need a couple of different digital interfaces, they buy a couple of interfaces and swap them themselves? Is that something
that's an excellent question. The official answer is no. These are not field replaceable modules. And you are absolutely voiding the warranty if you do it yourself. I have to leave it at that for official reasons.
Okay.
Talking about a couple of use cases. Hopefully we're on the other side of COVID, and I don't want to go into all of that business, but one of the very interesting byproducts of COVID, and I'd be interested in hearing your experiences, but at Audio Precision, just as an example, 2/3 of our workforce now works remotely some or all of the time. And there were some byproducts of that shift that, I never thought about. But one of them is if you have a distributed engineering team, if you have a bunch of people who are working from home labs scattered all over the world potentially, test equipment now becomes an issue because beforehand you might have been happy having test equipment centralized in the lab, and if people wanted to use it, they time shared it in the lab. Maybe potentially you ship test equipment from engineer to engineer, but as a practical matter, you don't do that. But where do you go? Because as a matter of budget, you're probably not going to buy an APx555 for each and every one of your engineers. So one use case which really drove this is we have customers who are like, hey, I need an analyzer I can afford to put in people's hands. I have to buy a lot more analyzers. I mean, bizarrely enough, we were one of those businesses where our best year of all time was at the height of the pandemic. And it was companies had closed down their offices, had closed down their labs, and needed to buy enough equipment so that people could work remotely. So that's one of the use cases that we've imagined this product for. Is it is economical, we hope, enough that people can afford to deploy it directly to their distributed engineering teams. And then, of course, another use case is manufacturing test. Manufacturing test is one of the ones which people do not necessarily think of AP as a fit for, mostly again because they're familiar with our products from development labs. They're familiar with what those products cost, and we kind of get ruled out. We do have some much more economical products available now, in particular APx500 Flex, which is our software-only offering. We also came out with the APx517, which is an economical solution for testing acoustic products like speakers and microphones. And then the APx516 is really priced aggressively and has the features to be a good solution for QC test in factories. So exactly, we did plenty of voice of the customer research. You know, one of the things that we heard, especially we were developing this product in 2020, 2021, and last year, was people persistently complaining about either not having access to test equipment or having their test equipment borrowed. The term used was usually stolen by other people in their company, and their desire to be able to just tell people, hey, go get your own. So we have an international audience here, and so I do have to say that this pricing that I'm showing right now is US pricing, so it's US dollars delivered in the US. Your mileage will vary with euros or RMB, but it does, as you can see here, to the degree which you may or may not already be familiar with our pricing, but exactly, we can get into a analog only configuration for $6,000, which is, I guess everybody has a different reaction, but it's pretty aggressive for us.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what kind of the benchmark was before. Might have been 3 times that or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean, our top of the line product configured the way a lot of customers configure it actually approaches 10 times this amount.
Okay.
So that's where I say it kind of depends on where you're coming at this from. I know that there are people who are, you know, using much lower cost solutions and for whom $6,000 is a pretty high price. So I hate to say all things are relative, but all things are relative compared to our other analyzers. This is pretty aggressively priced.
Right. Okay. That's good, because I know that people were listening to the talk about cost and they were expecting, like, is he going to tell us? What, so thanks for that.
I know, and generally speaking, I think one of the things that is different about AP is I don't like being coy about pricing.
Yeah.
And you know, the only thing I will say about pricing is that this is all US dollars, delivery in the US. If you're in a different region of the world, we can set you up and we'll get you the landed price in your local currency.
Sure.
this is another area where I know that people have mixed reactions, and mixed reactions is probably being very, very charitable. But we do have two models now on the software side of our analyzers. Our analyzers do have a hardware component and a software component. And on the software side of things, we are offering both perpetual licensing. I am extremely cognizant of the fact that for perfectly valid reasons, a lot of people want to own their software. I know the reaction of National Instruments under recently declaring that you could only rent LabVIEW. But so we do have that available, and we have pricing for that. Like everyone else in this industry, we do want to move to a recurring model. And so we also provide software subscriptions. And the differences are pretty straightforward. The software subscriptions are an all-you-can-eat buffet. They include all the software features and all software updates that are released during the subscription interval. And particularly if you go out to, for example, a 5-year subscription, it really is the most economical model. But we will continue to offer perpetual licensing for the customers who are interested in that. And, one perfectly valid group of customers are people in production test. In production test, they don't need all the software options. And one thing that terrifies every shop manager I know is the idea that somebody might forget to renew something and their line goes down. So there's definitely a valid use case there.
Right.
A couple promotions we're running. And yeah, I'm happy to go over any questions or details you might be interested in.
What does a customer give up by choosing this model as compared to a higher spec model, let's say?
Yeah, so there's really two things that a customer gives up. The first is raw analog performance. And it turns out to both be a joke, but not a joke. The analog performance and the price goes up proportionately in dB. So, this analyzer in a 20 kilohertz bandwidth, we're looking at 2 microvolts of noise. Our highest performance analyzer is sub a microvolt. Is that important in your application? For the vast majority of consumer devices, probably not. But analog performance is there, and that is one of the things that separates the different models of analyzers we sell. And then probably the more practical thing is this chassis really does have only one module slot, whereas the larger modular chassis we offer has 8 modular slots. And so you just have a more restricted configuration in this chassis. In this chassis, you have analog audio and one digital audio module of your choice. In the full-size modular chassis, you can sort of have it all.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the fundamental trade-off. What we found is for a lot of applications, the way the analyzer is used is sort of application specific. If you're testing, like let's say you're testing an AV receiver, you need the HDMI interface module. You may not need any other modules. Or you're testing a Bluetooth device, you need the Bluetooth module, but you don't necessarily. So that was sort of the foundational observation that drove this, is that for not all use cases, but for a good chunk of customers, one module is sufficient.
Right. Kind of purpose built almost.
And you can, I mean, it's not something, it's not dynamic. But, you know, if you're, you know, like, for example, if you deploy these on a production line, they're on that line for a few years making a product. That product ends its life. You start up production of the next product, of the successor product, and you need a different digital interface module that can be changed out.
Right. Okay. All right. So Simon, any more questions or anything else about audio precision you'd like to know?
Nothing comes to mind just at the moment.
Okay. All right, Dan, is anything else you'd like to bring up about this?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I guess can I say that by the time this recording is live, that they're shipping? This will be
this
is shipping in early December.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's yeah, by the time people start watching this, sure. It's a very dedicated audience we have. They're really techie, but yeah, we'll put information in the link below or in the description below. Sorry, we'll put some links in there for people to read more about it and find their local distributor. So yeah, Dan Knighten, thanks for joining us today, and encourage everybody like, subscribe, and there's also there's an article in the Audio Express as well. So since they set this up, we encourage people to go. We'll put the link to that article in the description as well, so people can find out more. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much.